goes. We may use every minute of it. And so with that in mind, why don't I start with a land acknowledgement, and I would like to do it in a bit of a different way than maybe we've done it or I've seen it done before. And because we have a bit of time, I wanted to take a bit of time, and I won't take more than 5 minutes.
You should be able to see yourself when you open it.
But I do want to spend some time just sharing with you the story of the First Nations here in our part of the world. I'm in New Brunswick. I live just in Keswick Ridge outside of Fredericton. And we really are part of a territory called the Wabanaki. And within that territory is the Wolastoqey. Really a handful of nations, 6 nations plus the Passamaquoddy, that really are the water people. People who live within the St. John, what we call the St. John watershed, and the Bay of Fundy. And within the story of the First Nations here, the Indigenous communities here, there are kind of 3 priorities that are really important to us, that we are doing our very best to be allies on. One of them is giving the river's name back. And there is a very, I think, a beautiful campaign. I'm going to show you a very quick video of it. A very beautiful campaign to rename the river the Wolastoq. And there's also something that whenever we do a meeting with our Indigenous communities, you will always hear the Wolastoq song. And I'm going to share that with you, and that'll just take a couple of minutes. There's also the effort to get land back, and we're supporting as we best can the land claim process in New Brunswick. And then there's the process of getting the language back. And we've finally secured funding for immersion programs where the language is really being rejuvenated. And it's quite a beautiful thing. There's also a story that is settler connected. My name is Louise Comeau. My name is Louise Anna Marie Francoise Comeau. I'm an Acadian, and my family arrived in this part of the world in 1632 to 1634. And I don't know if many people across Canada know about the Acadian expulsion. More than 10,000 people were forced out of the areas in Nova Scotia that they'd been living in, and in New Brunswick. 10,000 people forced from these communities, and many, many died. Thousands died. And those that survived because the Indigenous communities took them in and helped them to survive. My family relocated from Annapolis Royal into northern New Brunswick. So I just wanted to express my personal gratitude. We know very clearly that the Comeaus lost 3 generations of people in the expulsion, and that we owe our Indigenous communities gratitude for helping us to survive. So I wanted to show you just 2 things, because we often have these acknowledgements, but they're kind of like, we don't really share the people. And I wanted to have you have a sense of this wonderful opportunity and the relationships that I think we're trying to build positively here in New Brunswick. So this is just 1 minute on this beautiful documentary called My Name is Wolastoq that is on CBC, and I will put all these links in the chat for you. So just have a quick listen to this.
As a nation, the river's name is who we are. And that is one of the main reasons why we would want to restore it. It should never have been changed in the first place.
It's about our identity, and I think of my ancestors, and this would be a long time coming.
You know, it's our river. You can only fight for so long. Truth always finds a way.
Is more than a request from a small group of Wabanaki people. It's from the majority of New Brunswick citizens that support this request.
And understanding that we are an unceded and unsurrendered territory.
We're the Wolastoqey. We're the people of this beautiful, bountiful river.
And then let me just show you the Woollistic song. And I'm starting in the middle of it. You'll hear the words in English and then in Woollistic. Hold on a second.
Woollistic is flowing, flowing and growing. Woollistic is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Woollistic Malakwe, Aji de Pameko, Woollistic Malakwe, Supe Kalmia. Nikwas pamepen, wazizech nelaskamil. Nikwas pamepen, wazizech nelaskamil.
There. I hope that gets our meeting off in a good way. And that you get a sense of our people out here who are real and wonderful and part of our lives. So now let's turn our attention to the fall and the preparations and the planning that are in the early stages around September 20th. And I'll hand it over to Nick, who will give you a good overview, and then we'll hear from Rolly and as well Jane Adams to give us a good sense of our possibilities, and then we'll have open conversation for a fairly good piece of time. So why don't we hand it over to you, Nick?
Thank you. So I will try to go through where we're at in terms of the organizing. It has felt that we're really rushing and hurrying up to stand still for a while, because we've been trying to sort out what is going on and where we fit in and how we relate to the issues. But I think today it became clear. The last couple of days, it's become quite a bit clearer, where things stand. So this afternoon, sorry, there was a meeting organized by 350 and CANRAC that clarified, to people who attended some of what the basic structure and organization is, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the first question is, returning to why are we involved with these other groups? And I just want to review briefly some of the thinking around that. So since the Trump administration took over the U.S. government in January, Canada and much of the world has asserted its sovereignty, and we're opposition to Trump and defending our sovereignty against the bullying that's happening globally and against Canada, clearly. Canadians boycotted U.S. goods, and they voted for the party they thought would best defend Canada against U.S. domination. However, under the cover of protecting sovereignty, there have been a series of bills passed at provincial and federal government levels that push forward oil and gas pipelines, mineral extraction, while writing roughshod over Indigenous rights and sovereignty, environmental protections, democratic rights, and labor rights. The federal government's expanding the military. It's tightened its border regulations to the detriment of refugees and migrants. Governments, provincial and federal, are basing their nation-building projects on subsidizing corporations while cutting government spending on social programs. And all this is happening while we're facing another summer of wildfires and heat waves. It's taking advantage, and they're seeking to take advantage of the melting in the Arctic rather than stopping the emissions that are causing its decline. One of the latest examples being the agreement between Ford and Smith, looking at building the rail line, aside from expanding oil, building the rail line through to the Ring of Fire. and opening up a port in James Bay. Globally, there's expansion of wars and increasing danger of large-scale war. The arms race is picking up steam with renewed emphasis on nuclear weapons production. Oil and gas investments expanding, and many countries are backing away from earlier emissions reduction commitments. And as we approach COP30, there's an effort to install an economist who has been 2 decades with Saudi Arabia's state oil company to be one of the three coordinating lead authors for the key chapter in the next assessment of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. That's the one that advises government on how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels. Measures taken by Trump and other countries are set directly against climate action. So all of these measures in Canada and globally are intensifying the climate crisis. People in Canada around the world are and will increasingly suffer the consequences. We're facing existential crises. We're in a tight timeline, one imposed by climate and planet boundary limits, one imposed by the possibilities of expanding war and human destruction. We can't wait for tomorrow. We have to act today, and we can't win alone. And this is where we get to why we're involved. We have to win together. The fight to stop climate destruction, the fight to stop war, to assert Indigenous rights, to protect democracy, to end poverty, all need each other. We have to unite to have any hope of success. So we're uniting for a livable planet at peace with democracy, prosperity for all. And each of our, the groups who are participating in this coalition are seeking to unite with others. And we look to see if there's other. So what we've done in the past is as Seniors for Climate, each time we made a decision on the next action, we looked to see if there's other things happening globally, et cetera. And this time there is, and that's why we're joining in with that opportunity. And there is an opportunity that presents, actually, is an interesting one that's starting to emerge for each of the groups who are participating to educate their own base about the interconnection between the different issues. And I think that's very significant. So the general themes, I'm going to just show this. Actually, maybe I'll start with this. Okay, can you see that? And is it big enough?
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
Okay, so what's emerged, and this is the initiative of 350 and CANRAC, Climate Action Network. There are two groups are being set up and underway. One is an advisory team, and you'll see that in the white circles, and you'll see various groups included there, and some that we hope to include. Among those are CANRAC 350, and you'll see Seniors for Climate, Sacred Earth Solar, Migrant Rights Network, looking to find human rights and demilitarization groups and labor groups. That group is going to work on the messaging and on the basic strategy and direction for the common action. That will lead into forming a national coordination team, again with some of the same groups and others. Lead Now, for example, is committed to that. And that group, the national coordinating team, will bring together the various groups that are organizing in the various locations. So Seniors for Climate will connect up with migrant justice workers, or connect up with perhaps Sacred Earth Solar in different locations, and that task of coordinating, bringing things together. Again, Seniors for Climate will be represented there, and we'll work with others to make that happen. And then that will connect up the various groups on their local actions and development what they're doing. So these black circles are local events, and the green will show some connections, the white connections to different groups. This group in particular, the national coordinating team, will be making those connections so that things work together. So this is, I'm just going to stop sharing. This is, the general direction, the organizational structure that's now in place. It's just coming into place. The first meeting of the advisory teams happened. Second meeting is happening tomorrow. The target is July 21st to have some of the material and website ready to go. So it's tight timeline, and it's as I said, it feels like we've been taking a long time getting here, but I think we are here now, and and then each group is going to be playing a role, and some of them are going to be parallel. So just to give you an example, the rights migrant workers. Anyway, can't remember what the acronym stands for at the moment, but they've organized in something like 10 centers across the country. They'll have a large scale mobilization. They committed to educating their members on the connection between the issues that they are organizing around and climate. And similarly, there are ways in which we can organize and do education around the connection between climate and the issues they're organizing around. And the concept is to build for the 20th, to have the biggest possible number of people in the streets, and to go beyond that. And of course, we'll have to assess as we get there what that looks like. The themes still not finalized, but as I said, the target date is July 21st, and I'm just going to share my screen to show you the starting point. Can you see that, and is it big enough?
Little bigger.
A little bigger, right? Okay, 1 second. Oh, that's
Yeah, Zoom is there. Go down, down, down.
yeah.
down,
No, I
down,
know.
down.
I had something else in the way I couldn't see it. Okay, here we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the starting point that 350 put out, and some people have seen this. I think it's been sent up already, but so the idea is taking to the streets and communities across the country. It's a high stakes moment with Parliament returning the 15th and the federal budget just ahead. Carney's making the choices that will define Canada's path for years to come. We're drawing a clearer line. Carney must choose between climate chaos and corporate control, or a safe and just future for us all. And then here's some of the things that are currently on the table in terms of building a growing global momentum through this day of action. Draw a visible moral and political line, call the Prime Minister to pick a side, expose the political cost of pipeline appeasement, demonstrating the strength of a progressive coalition, showcase an unusual coalition from unions to housing advocates, artists to clean energy workers, youth to municipal workers. So the idea is to build the broadest possible unity, deliver a patriotic, progressive, populist message. So that's the starting point for the discussion that's happening. It's not the finishing point. So a big part of the discussion is going to be, how do we clearly define for us, how does climate clearly elaborated as part of an essential component of this coalition, at the same time as bringing out the other issues. So that's going to be the task that's ahead, and we'll hopefully be able to get that sorted out fairly quickly. And then, of course, the next thing is getting the organizing actually happening. So there's a number of locations where organizing has begun. There's a number of locations that Seniors for Climate has already begun organizing. There are other places that are waiting, for things to be heard. There are connections that will have to be made, and in the next period of time, we're going to try to do our best to make those connections. We'll be asking you, if you're involved in any particular coalition or group and location, to register with us, and we will then pass those, make sure that those are connected to the overall registrations. And on the other hand, if you're in coalitions, then it may be that coalition may choose to register separately as well through the other, network of 350, and that's okay, because either way it'll get registered. Main thing is we will know where our people are active. In the next period of time, we'll also be talking a bit about how do we get our message across within these mobilizations. So I think things are underway. It's late, we know, but I think what's happened in the last period of time is that things are starting to come together, and people know where they stand, and we know what the task is ahead of us. And I think that completes it, unless I've left something out, which I hope I haven't.
Well, that's okay, Nick. You can always pop back in.
Okay.
Dave, I'm going to call on you now because of some of the questions in the chat. So there's been some questions around how do we connect with groups that are located in our area who may be part of the 350.org network, part of any of the other partners, whether it's CanRAC and so on. And Dave Smith's been busy trying to help us figure that out. So why don't I just let him tell us what he's been trying to do.
Okay, I want to start with a big number, and the number is 14,170. That's the number of possible combinations of all the Seniors for Climate locations mapped against the 172 CanRAC member groups. So if everybody joins in and everybody is going to be participating in every one of the Seniors for Climate locations, that's the number of connections I personally am going to have to make with all of you. However, I don't expect that it's going to be quite that large. The key point is I am the one who's connecting groups. So I'm the designated contact with 350. As a group says, we want to participate and here are our locations. I have set something up already where I'm going to be able to identify the Seniors for Climate groups and get a notification out to you to be able to connect to these other groups within CanRAC. So that's the first thing. I'll be your main point of contact, at least as far as other groups joining you. If you identify a group that wants to join in your local action, I don't think it's any different from what it's been in the past. I don't know that we're going to communicate anything up to 350, so we'll keep it at the local level for now. The other thing I want to mention, we had a meeting of the Ontario locations late last week, and Gina Lamel said she's already been approached by a couple of groups and stuff. And how is this all going to work? Are the Seniors for Climate leads going to act as the leaders for each location? And the answer to that is it's up to you. So in Toronto, for example, there's been a steering committee formed amongst all the groups that are participating, and it'll be up to the steering committee to be able to choose the lead person for that location and get that organized. Another question that Gina asked, which I think Nick has partially answered here, is it going to be Seniors for Climate that registers with 350, or is it going to be each individual group involved in a particular location? And as Nick has said, we're asking you if you will please, for Seniors for Climate, register with us so we can get the location on the map and also communicate that with 350.
And just to be clear, just in case we have new folks, what is our normal process for registering to get on the map? I think we sent it.
Yes. So there are two email addresses that everybody uses. The one that is designated for organizers is the admin at seniorsforclimate.org. We ask that you not use the contact info email address because that's primarily reserved for the public. So if somebody tries to send us a message off our website, it goes to contact info, and you have exclusive access to the admin at seniorsforclimate.org. So please use that one. And that's where you would communicate any plans that you have. And normally when a location does send something in, we also copy you don't have to, but we also copy the organizing support person for that location. So they're aware of what's going on as well.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Rolly, I'm going to be handing it over to you anyway, so why don't you just accept it's now for you on messaging, and okay. I hope you're also going to speak to the save the date poster that we'll send out. Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to add, David, I thought I heard today at the meeting that 350, Emma, is it Emma? Yeah, Emma was saying that they're also going to be doing some matchmaking in locations where they've got groups registering with them. So I guess you'll be working with her occasionally on that. Okay. So I'm gonna lower the hand and share my screen. So let me get that set up. Okay, so you're looking at our messaging. I don't have slides, but I've got this organized in about 5 or 6 pieces. The purpose of this segment is to, make that link or show how Seniors for Climate, what we do and who we are, connects to the draw the line concept. And I think that's probably clear by now because there's been a lot going out and a lot of correspondence on this. But and Nick has covered a lot of the material which I have here, but I'll try not to repeat. But I thought I'd start here because this is on our website. This is basically who we are. We are seniors taking a stand for safer, healthier, fossil-free Canada. This is our vision in blue, a world beyond fossil fuels and a safe, just, and livable for all. And you'll recognize the 3 pillars framework that we have for our messaging for 2025. We know what the problem is of fossil fuels, of course. We know we have the solutions. And of course, when we did this messaging at the beginning of this year, and we spoke of bold action, well, we didn't know then there's this draw the line movement, that there would be a global draw the line movement, and of course, a Canada-wide movement as well. So I guess that bold action is being part of something that is truly national and also global. So I'll not go through. You've seen this is the material that is on our website. The second thing.
Sorry, Rolly. I just had a request. I just had a request to make it a bit larger.
A bit larger? Okay. I can do that.
Great.
Okay. So I'll just move on to the next one. As Nick very well explained, that we're at a moment now where it's a moment of choice. And our choice is very visibly between the kind of future we're going to have if we continue to burn fossil fuels. The choice is between fossil fuel climate crisis or a livable future. And Nick went through some of that and set the context that Canada is in right now. Part of it, of course, is because of the election of Donald Trump, but there are also global forces that even he couldn't foresee or can control. So we are at a defining moment in Canada, not only in terms of climate, but also for our sovereignty, the economic coercion from the U.S. But what I find out of this is, at least as seniors, we know. I'm going to scroll up because I realize by making it bigger that you're missing part of this. Seniors are a political force, and I think within that larger coalition that we saw today, Nick, you made that point, and it's a very important point. And I saw some heads nodding when you mentioned that we are a very powerful electoral force. We vote at rates of up to 80%. And we're ready to act, and we've shown that in 2024, and we've shown it again on April Earth Week, where we're able to mobilize quite a few communities. And in 2025, well, we're prepared to double down, and that's exactly what we're doing. We will be on the national planning team, and Nick is currently on the advisory body that will be advising the national team as well.
I really feel we should have this.
Okay. Moving on, this is more at a conceptual level. Draw the line, I mean, as not formulated, or sorry, whether it's 350.org or CanRac, I've not really formulated the demands or that the movement will be driving with. But this is more at a conceptual level, and I guess the concept or the draw the line framing touches on energy, finance, democracy, where you protect people, not polluters. And then there are broader concepts: peace, defending human rights, freedom, and rights. and of course, restoring our relationship to the earth. And this is where some of those other global groups, organizations will be coming at this, draw the line from a slightly different perspective. We're probably the only group that is coming at it from more of a pure climate crisis perspective. And I think that'll be very, very important and good that we're at the national planning team so that we can make sure that we as seniors, after all, we do represent 1/4 of Canada, have our say and also help shape the positions that the movement will take around climate, the climate emergency, climate crisis, and so on. So yeah, we're at a very crucial time in Canada, and it's a moment of choice. So what do we bring then? What do seniors bring to the climate, to the draw the line framing? Well, we know that we have a shared purpose with the purposes stated in the draw the line concept. And we also have a shared vision, a just and livable world for all. We're just coming at it from a slightly different way. But in the end, I think each of those groups that will be part of this global, larger movement just wants that. We want a just and livable world. And fossil free, and here in Canada, of course, People First Canada. And what we specifically bring to the draw the line mobilization is moral authority. We have a concern for our children and grandchildren, so the intergenerational responsibility. As I mentioned before, we have political clout. And we've been around deep lived experience with social and environmental injustice. And I was impressed today at the meeting when Nick went through, I don't know how many groups you mentioned, Nick, but not groups, but movements that you were familiar with. And it was a long list of protests and movements and causes that all of us have experienced over the years. So we bring a deep lived experience on all of the social, political, and environmental movements. And the cross-sector reach from healthcare to housing, unions, faith, we bring that as well. And I kind of like this draw the line logo, I guess, that is coming down the pipe, I believe. But more importantly, and this is probably the most important part of this little spiel that I'm doing, it's about the top three. I've identified the top three senior-specific climate change concerns. And this is some of the research I've done and research that has been done by whether it's Reclimate or other groups that are into research on climate. Health threats from extreme heat, wildfire smoke, and air pollution. They are the number one concern of seniors when it comes to climate change. And I mean, I could go through the list of, the health threats that represents, but it can be anything from, reduced chronic illnesses and pulmonary issues and so on. But more importantly, those are all the effects of extreme heat, but it has implication for what our demands will be. And that's where I think we will need to be, again, very clear about what our demands should be at a national level when it comes to the effect of our climate impacts on seniors. So there's, again, health threats from extreme heat, wildfire and air pollution. Then there's all of the cost of living issues and the economic insecurity. So what do we do about that? What do we ask governments to do to respond to that or to address that? Well, it gets back to, where the money comes from or where the money is going. So we need to end fossil fuel subsidies, obviously. We need to make sure that, proper community services are available for those most in need or impacted by climate change. And what about our pensions? Should governments not regulate somehow that our pensions divest from fossil fuels? These are all concerns that are specific to us, but will at some point affect other segments, other demographics as well. And our concern for future generations and legacy, well, that is a moral and an emotional connection that we have to the future. There's no question about that. And we want governments to declare and deal with the crisis as if it's a national emergency. And it's not just an economic issue. And that seems to be where the Carney government is going. I mean, we cannot work our way out of the climate crisis by burning more fossil fuels, and that's exactly the direction we seem to be taking. So the next chart is just a table that shows that we can pick any sort of a message, let's look at the first one, for example. We are seniors demanding our government build a better Canada, free from the devastation of burning fossil fuels. One of the demands that we've seen, again, these are all at a conceptual level. They're calling on Prime Minister Carney to choose between fossil fuel, corporate-driven chaos, and a just people first future. So there's a lot of alignment with not only the basic philosophy of or behind Draw the Line, but also what we believe in as seniors and who we have demonstrated we are since the beginning of 2024. And that's pretty well it for now. I'm not going to go into more details than that. If there are any questions, I can answer them, or I can go into something else that you had mentioned. So I'll stop sharing here.
So thanks for that, Rolly. So we had thought that, and so I'm just checking if folks are bursting with questions just now. Jane Addams is just going to also do a presentation on tactics, and then with all three things in mind, with what Nick has shared and Rolly has shared and what Jane has shared, open it up for about a half-hour discussion on what we're doing, what we're thinking. But if you have a burning thing right now, I'll open it up. But if you can wait, then maybe that will help for the discussion in a moment. Are folks okay? I saw Francis, you had your hand up, but I don't want to cut you off. We will make sure you have first dibs on.
It was also in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So, Rolly, you said you needed to do something else, or should we open it up for Jane?
No, open it up. It was just to answer the possible question, which I expect about doing a save the date poster or not. But we can deal with that a bit later, I think, when you get to the questions.
Perfect, perfect. Jane, I see Jane was here. Yes, there you are. So Jane Addams has done a really great tactics toolkit that she's going to share with us. And then, as I mentioned, with the three presentations in mind, we can let her rip. So over to you, Jane.
So happy to see you all. I think you're the kind of people that I would most want to talk to in my whole life. I'm a member of SCAN, and I'm one of the people that does orientation with the new members. And almost everybody says, I just want to do something. I just need to do something. So you are kind of the answer to all those people's prayers, because you're the kind of people that, well, you know the old saw, if you do nothing, nothing will happen. But if you do something, something is sure to happen. So with Christine and Rolly, we're going to present now 3 signature actions. And we think that these actions, from all the ideas that have been put out, are most likely to create a dramatic, fun, and engaging event, and that people will know and feel, having been involved, that they're standing tall against the just terrible wrongs that have been perpetrated against us. And these kinds of things will have a long-lasting impact on the community. So I think the event has to be about something. And I think Rolly has said more than enough about that. It can't be a happening. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember happenings in the 60s, but they were totally meaningless. We have to do something that is very profound in every way, something that people across the country will identify with, something about fossil fuels that we care about very deeply. So you've got lots of those things in your plate. Now, these 3 events that we're talking about, if you would like to share for an hour sometime in the next week with one another, anybody else who's interested in any one of these actions, we can put together a think tank, just get together, share tips about how to make that happen. there's dozens of ways of sort of embellishing or decorating any one of these ideas. There's just ingenuity out there everywhere. If you would like to do that with one of these things, or maybe more than one, just put your name in the chat and the action that interests you particularly, and we'll get back to you tomorrow. This would be the easiest thing in the world, just to get together people who are interested. So this is tactics. And I could have filled 3 or 4 more pages with the things that we could do, but this is the job, is to look through them and say, I could imagine, doing this, and then we'll get a drone, and then we'll record it, and then we'll make a movie. I know there's just, people are full of ideas. So the very first event is a red ribbon. And this is quite powerful. It's not a difficult thing to do. And everybody is engaged. Everybody is holding on to this line, the line that means, in a way, a lifeline. And David sent me this one. Oh, there. You see down in the bottom corner, these women, I think there are 400 mothers. They hand knit a scarf to wrap around the parliament in Stockholm, protesting climate in action. So this great thing that they're carrying is knitted. I think it's 400 scarves that they knit. And there's a lot of people talking about birds. There's 93 birds who are on the endangered list. So the birds in this little clip are saying, draw the line on, for Christ's sake, for the love of all creation. Like, do it, just draw the line. And this is the second one. And this is a slow wheeled parade. So this is all kinds of people on all kinds of vehicles making a day of it, being together and having a very good time. So it can be very exciting, very intergenerational. All kinds of groups could join you. But again, it has to be, about something. So the beauty of it is the decorating of the bikes and costumes where the people can represent your theme. And it can include all kinds of things like flash mobs and whatever, as long as it's about something that everybody is attached to, and ends with a giant barbecue. So that would be a very fun thing. A lot of people of all generations would enjoy it. So the third thing is Red Rebels. So I was the founder of the Red Rebels in Toronto, but this was not my idea. In fact, it was Christine who said, yeah, we've got to do this Red Rebel thing, because it's not a mass thing. Like, you can't have 40 people doing it. It takes time. It's like putting on I don't know, it's like a theater. It's more like a theater or a production. So you wouldn't do that over the summer. But if 3 or 4 people, part of a larger community, wanted to do this, it would be extremely interesting. And this is what Red Rebels do. They support whatever else is going on, not just the people who are participating, but the people who are in the public, the passersby, providing emotional support. And I asked the Red Rebels the other day who they think we are, and are we the same as the people we are reaching out to? And this is what they said. We're the people, and this is who we speak to, people who are searching for ways to respond to looming disasters, full of love for the whole of creation, despairing about the worst predictions, and hopeful that we can still offset the worst of them. This is Rowley's point, building on lifetimes of justice seeking, sharpening our teeth for this fight. And I bet a lot of people will respond to that. I feel that. I have quite sharp teeth. And willing to imagine taking to the streets to raise our voices and demand justice and to confront criminals. So here are this is our Toronto troop. There's hundreds of these troops around the world, and they pop up sort of everywhere. Your job is just to be there in solidarity, and but you're supposed to stay pretty much in character. But you could go out of character. You could do something. So somebody said, "Well, what if the Red Rebels were part of some performance that involved birds? We were doing a thing about birds." Well, we said we already look like cardinals, right? So we could just paint our faces black and put like little orange beaks, and we would be a flock of cardinals. So it's very flexible, but we have our pattern, we have our way of conducting. So we also have tremendous resources because we've been doing this for 3 years. And so everything that we've done, we've documented and we put it on our website. So any group that would like to do this, we could do everything. We can help you figure out how to recruit, how to make the costumes, how to figure out how you want to manage your meetings and solve your problems and all that stuff. We've got all this written out, and we'd just be dying to share it. You don't have to commit to doing anything, but we'd be happy to talk you through it, because I think it's one of the best things that I've ever done. And I just love it. I feel courageous. I feel strong. I feel like I'm part of a collective. And what I will say is that the Red Rebels, as well as these other groups, they demonstrate collective action. And for a lot of people in the community, they don't see that very often, except maybe a sports team. But there we are, there you are with your groups, and there we are trying to do something that puts us forward, expresses our voices, and looks forward to the future. So if any one of those 3 things interest you, put it in the chat with your name, and we'll get together for an hour and we'll just talk about, if we wanted to do this red ribbon thing, how do we go about it? What would you suggest we have people do? Whatever. Just brainstorm something that would make it a little bit more meaningful for you personally. So that's my thing. Is there anything else I should have said, Rolly?
Just that once we have the names, whether they come to us by the admin at seniorsforclimate.org address or the chat, then we will set up, I guess, a workshop, or you're not calling it a workshop though. I think tank, I think.
Well, it's sort of be brainstorming. We would all be
Yeah.
sharing. I have things I could tell you about all the stuff I've read, but people have this lifelong of experience and they have imagination. So it would actually be fun to do this.
So I'm not sure if we can do this week. Things don't move that quickly at headquarters, but we'll do the very best we can, depending on the number of names. And as you can see, folks, Jane has a lot of energy, and she would really love to work with some of you or many of you.
Yeah, we could just try out. And if at the end of it, you just say, this is too complicated or people wouldn't enjoy it, then that's fine. But we would have expanded our repertoire of what's possible. And I would love that.
That's fantastic. I just love your energy, Jane. It's just fantastic. So let's stop sharing screen and open it up. Now we might, things will go as they go, but we might divide it into 2 questions about what you've heard so far. And then I'd really like it if we could spend some time with folks sharing the things they're thinking of doing. And I see 3 people in the queue: Suzanne, Francis, and Nancy. So let's start with Suzanne.
Okay, fabulous. The ribbon. I don't know if anybody's aware, but there's something called the Ribbon International. So we have the model. The idea was back to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They wanted to make 1 mile of ribbons, and a ribbon is a half a meter long, and half a meter wide. And on it, you paint, you embroider, you quilt, you write the thing you couldn't stand to lose in the event of a thermonuclear war. And on the end of this was the goal was 1 mile. And I still don't know, the people don't know about this, but on the 40th anniversary, they had 17 miles of ribbons, and they wrapped them around the Pentagon, the White, all of downtown Washington. I heard about it at the Earth Summit in Rio in '92, and at that point, you embroider, stitch, color, photograph the thing that you can't bear to lose in the event of climate change. And it's something that people can do independently, and you tie 4 ribbons on each corner, and then the ribbons get tied together. And this could be done easily in conjunction with the red ribbons. So if you didn't have enough physically to tie all together, but it is a global phenomenon. It was the first NGO to get status with the United Nations. I'll put it's the Ribbon International. But we have a template for how to do this, right? It's brilliant there, the ribboninternational.org. It and the beauty of it is when you have these individual ribbons, then people trade them, right?
Oh.
So, and they switch them and they can take them all around the world. So gung ho for the ribbon. I think we have the template for how it could go globally. The other thing I wanted to mention was I heard today Erica Chenoweth talk about she's the Harvard professor, Nonviolent Action Lab. She said statistically they study social change. 3.5% of the population is all you need to make extreme change, but it has to be nonviolent, which is exactly what we're doing. So we're on the right track. We just need to persevere. But the ribbon, please go to the website. It's an unbelievable project and it's a global phenomenon and we have the template. So just so excited. Thank you for letting me ramble on.
Great, thanks.
Lovely, wonderful, wonderful.
Great. Francis.
So I live my life in ambivalence, and until I consult with Mia, who makes all the decisions in our group, I can't pick one of these projects. They all look fabulous. But if I send my preference in a bit later than this meeting, is that all right?
Sure.
Like just send it to info at Seniors for Climate.
Absolutely.
Admin, send it to admin at Seniors for Climate, and I'll get slotted into a group. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to know.
Perfect. Nancy.
Yeah, I just thought I'd share. We're really just getting things off the ground, and I haven't yet even met with the Kingston Scan Group. But since I've been back, a few people have been in touch with me. There is a group that has started organizing around Bill 5. That's the Ontario Bill, Bill 5, and Kingston. So I had a great conversation with her. And what we're tossing around might be of interest to others. So we're thinking, draw the line, and then those things that are positive would be in green. Those things that we're opposed would be in red. So draw the line against fossil fuels in red. Draw the line against Bill 5 in red. But what we also talked about was doing some building actions. So the idea would be we're thinking about a parade in Kingston, and I'm thinking a way of building this parade because really Scan Kingston is not highly resourced. We're a small group. We need other groups to organize themselves. So to put out a call to join us, we'd set up the details in terms of where it starts, where it ends, get the permit, and so on, and circulate the key themes, and then ask them to build contingents, but to build contingents that all carry a banner that is, draw the line and whatever they want to put in. Including it may be draw the line for migrant rights, right? Um, so not exclusive to climate issues, although Seniors of Climate Scan may be wanting to message mainly on climate issues. Other groups could participate in this, but message on, draw the line against oligarchy. So that's just a thought. The other thing is that, Parliament's opening, I believe, on September 15th. I think these mobilizations across the country really have to think in terms of focusing on Carney. People voted against being the 51st state. We didn't vote to have Trump's policies brought in by Carney. And I think I'm upset about what's happening. I'm sure other people as well are. So I think that messaging needs to be there as we're building this and talking with people. What are the political stakes that we are facing?
Great, Nancy. Thanks. Tylene.
Thanks, Nancy, for bringing that up. I was just going to say the same thing. It definitely is. The idea is the unity of all of our struggles and that we can only win together. So I was going to say too that not only for climate action and ending fossil fuel usage, but also Indigenous solidarity, migrant rights, human rights, democracy, public services, tax, or as my one friend says, eat the billionaires, free Palestine, climate justice, right? Like all of those messages can be, and when you have this long red rope or ribbon that you create together, you have a lot of room for including all of the groups that we're going to come together so we can win together, right? And yeah, so we're planning a march and or bike. I love the wheel, slow wheel parade that's coming is the next idea. Combining that together. I love that idea, and then putting that together with carrying the rope or the ribbon or whatever you create that's red to have the long line. And I love the idea of the bikes because you can create a larger volume of with the same number of people, right? So I really love that. And I love how that's intergenerational because you can have little kids in wagons or in strollers. You can have maybe seniors that are in wheelchairs. You can have, any like bikes, e-bikes, and the idea of not using fossil fuels. And I think that we have a group called Paths for People in Edmonton, so advocating for bike lanes and walking paths. I think that all ties together, which is really amazing. And I love the idea too of putting together with the ribbon and the decorations on it is to have a big long banner that says draw the line and has the branding that's going to be coming out soon here from the action group, the planning groups, so that we have the logos and the images that nationally draw that all together. Yeah. So and thank you for all these ideas. The brainstorming session we had was fabulous, and now bringing this together. And I have to say that those 2 strategy books are outstanding as well.
Brian.
First of all, I want to apologize. I'm in Calgary, and this is Stampede time. So there might be background music. I want to say this. The ideas that have been expressed here are absolutely fantastic, and I look forward to the brainstorming sessions. But I also want to point out that what needs to be supported in all of this is getting to know our members of parliament, both federally and provincially, and some attention somewhere along the way has to be paid to that, because until we get to know them, they're not going to listen to our message. So I encourage everybody to, in your own community, to find a way to make a plan to let your members of parliament know who you are and what you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Barb.
I'm Barb Linz, and I'm the organizing support person for Ontario. Last year, October 1st, people from some smaller centers went to a larger center, identifying their community. And I'm sort of building on that by thinking about using the GO train. I have this idea to bring people to the Toronto event in numbers that involves the GO train system. We have people on the Barrie line. We have people, Barrie, Aurora, Newmarket. We have Hamilton, Oakville, Milton. We have people from Georgetown who will come to Mount Pleasant. We have people in Brampton. And I'm going to schedule a meeting in the next week or so of people whose communities are on the GO train to talk about how we coordinate this so that everybody arrives at Union Station at basically the same time, and they get on the subway and they go en masse to Queen's Park. And I've checked, there's no Argos game, there's no Blue Jays game, there's no soccer game. So, it would be, I think, a hoot actually to have all these people with their flags and banners giving out leaflets and turning up at the Toronto event. So any of you who live on the GO train line, expect an email from me in the next couple of days, and we'll pull that together.
Super. So put your hands up to describe what you might be thinking. And I couldn't do a direct chat to Penny, but I was hoping Penny could talk a little bit about what we're thinking about in New Brunswick. So I'll see if she's ready and willing to do that. Lydia, am I saying that correctly?
Yes, it's Lydia. Yeah.
Lydia.
So first, I think we're joining a coalition in Grimsby for the International Tractor Pull, and Premier Ford will be there. So it will be a coalition of several environmental groups on September the 16th. So that will be the first action. The second action that Seniors for Climate in Niagara is organizing is a line dance at the NDP biannual convention in Niagara Falls on the 19th. And so we did a flash mob last year for Seniors Day, but this year we're going to get the dancers back together to do a line dance. And each dancer will have a sign of what they're drawing the line on. So we're going to use the messaging that everybody has supplied. And before we start our dance, we'll hold up our signs and then do the line dance. We've invited Merit Stiles, we've invited her members of her party to come and dance with us. I haven't received a response, but I'll keep bugging.
Okay, great. Lois.
Hi, yeah. So here in Yellowknife, we have booked a community auditorium and kitchen. And we are working with the Youth Network. They are going to do, basically, we're going to have a Draw the Line festival or fair or expo. I'm not sure what it's going to be called. The Youth Network are doing a mini workshop on how our diets are impacting the health of our ecosystems and the planet. And so they're all about food security in times of climate breakdown. The environmental organizations are going to do something around water. So we're going to probably have a half a dozen different organizations doing mini workshops, mini discussion groups, presentations, all kind of in a community hall setting. So it's we're not taking to the streets. We'll get lots of media coverage as we always do, but calling people out into the streets it's still wildfire season in September, and we can't take that risk. So things are unfolding, but yeah. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. Thanks, Lois. Nick?
Yeah, I just want to bring up one thing that came up in some of the discussions we had at the Ontario meeting. I don't know if it's been mentioned already or not, but because I didn't catch if it was. So there's the difference between, and it comes up, I think, from just following up on Lois there, the difference in some places in smaller communities where the same thing doesn't work as it works in larger urban centers, or the same appeal doesn't work. And one of the things we wanted to see if there's some interest in communities, rural communities, smaller communities, and it's another meeting, but getting together and talk about how does one in that context deal with some of these issues versus, might be in other locations. So we're putting that out, see what people think, and if there's any interest in that.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll come to that on the agenda for folks in about, I don't know, 5 minutes or something. Penny.
Okay, Louise, so you're putting me on the spot.
I'll help you.
Well, September 20th. Well, first of all, I should say that we have a really wonderful association in New Brunswick. We have joined together Moncton, Fredericton, St. John, St. Andrews, and Sackville And we have worked together, and it's been a wonderful collaboration. So this time, everybody's coming to our little town of Sackville for September the 20th. And it falls on the Fall Fair weekend in our town. So on one hand, that is a big advantage in that the town is out and about and will be wanting to attend the Fall Fair parade and go to events around town. So that's an advantage. A disadvantage is everybody's out to have just a good time, and are they very interested in worrying about climate change? So we have tossed around a lot of conversation about how to balance that. We are certainly going to participate in the town parade, and we had already decided on the slow wheel idea. We will have lots of bicycles and trikes and strollers and so on, all carrying some kind of climate change banner attached to the handlebars. And then following the fair, or the parade rather, there is a gathering of vendors and activities. And so we're going to set up there with approximately 8 to 10 environmental groups, provincial environmental groups, all of which are going to have some interesting activities related to climate change. For example, these CAPE group, the physicians on for the environment, will do a demonstration on ticks, which is a big issue in the maritime provinces and is very much related to climate change. That just gives you an idea of the kinds of activities that we're planning to have with each of our environmental groups. So that's about where we are in our planning stage. And
Perfect, Penny. And we'll be having obviously meetings just like everyone else. But I did want to mention, because we've been talking about how do you connect groups with the Climate Action Network groups and others. So, the way it's working for us, and 5 of us are on the call. So Penny and Anne and Meredith and Muriel and myself. We have the New Brunswick Environment Network that joins our calls, the Conservation Council of New Brunswick, who is already a CANRAC member, and CRED, Coalition for Responsible Environmental Development. They're already a member of CANRAC. And so, we have this group that we grow as we need to, and happily they're not that far from where Penny is, and so a lot of folks will be there. But they'll also help in getting the word out, which starts with the Save the Date that Rolly mentioned earlier. The Draw the Line materials aren't yet ready for us, and so Seniors for Climate will create a Save the Date poster that you can all start to share with your communities and groups that you're working with, and so on. And I'm not sure if you want to say anything about when we think that will happen. And then one other logistical point, I don't know if you found this, but it is always, it's never too early to start figuring out who's going to do your video recording and your photography. We had a great video from our last event, but we didn't know, somebody forgot. We didn't know. It's all the learning process. We didn't turn the sound on. So all those little things that you have to kind of plan for and think about, so that you do get some good footage out of it in the end. And we learned a lesson there about how to figure that out. Penny, did you put your hand back up for a second?
No, I haven't put it down yet. Sorry.
Okay, great. So that's kind of the story there. Rolly, is there anything? Yes, thank you. If you wanted to add on the
I was just going to go through a few things we're going to be doing. There will be the I've just got it here, the Hold the Date poster. We have that ready to go. I think we've already shared that, but we're going to be following up this organizers meeting with an email, as you all know. And so we'll be including those posters. There's one that is it's a Canva, it's made in Canva, so you can actually insert your own information. And there's one that it's so you'll be able to, what's the word? adapted to your own locations. So that's one thing that'll be going out to you. Also, in that email, we'll be identifying the 3 tactics that Jane presented and ask you to, I mean, I know that some of you have shared your email in the chat and might be sending it to your request to admin@seniorsforclimate.org, but also there are many who are not on this call, so they might also be interested. So we'll send out an email question about that. Also, some of you will be thinking about press releases and media releases. We'd rather wait to see what's going to come down the line from 350 and CANRAC and so on, because unless you want something now, Christine did tell me that she would be prepared to do something, but my inclination is to wait for another couple of weeks. I mean, that would be my inclination. Let's see, there was also, now I've got 15 flags sitting behind me here, and we ordered 15 more flags this year. As you know, we had 76 locations last year, and I believe we're up to, what are we up to now, David? Is it 84 or 82 or?
82.
82, there you go. So some of those locations will want a flag, and we'll be asking that question as well in the follow-up email. And that's about it. Yeah, that covers what I have on my short list there.
Okay, great. Put your hands up if you have any issues around that. I thought we'd just go back to what Nick had talked about in terms of issues or challenges, let's put it that way, engaging in more rural communities. We're certainly quite rural here in New Brunswick. And so we just wondered, are folks finding, if you are in a rural location, that you have special challenges that you would like to workshop a little and to share experiences and advice to each other about what that might take? Being a person who does a lot of research on climate change communications and audience segmentation, I look at a lot of data, and I can tell you that the rural species is different than the urban species at an emotional level. They have a different relationship to nature, and they are more pragmatic and resist a lot of what the urban resident might come to environmental issues through. The door is different. So I certainly am happy to talk about ways to engage rural folks that are different than how we might think it through in an urban setting. Anne.
I hope I just, oh, I did. I just made my face show. Yeah, I'm really interested in this topic. We don't seem that rural, but we are quite rural up here in the Upper Ottawa Valley, for the most part. Our largest city in our county is 15,000. Well, no, that doesn't include the Army base. It's got 18,000, but that is the Army base. And we're actually the biggest county in Ontario, and we have the worst MP. She's still a climate denier. We have a lot of problems. And the thing you just said really hit a chord with me, which is that the people in our area, pretty much like the people in Kent County, New Brunswick, when I was there, are very pragmatic and resist having, I'm just going to use shorthand here, but urban progressive wokeness mixed into their everyday cocktail of what they should be thinking about and concerned about, because there are other things to be concerned about and thinking about, and they just don't fit into the frame of reference of most people. Not to say that people in our area support, like, that is full of racists or anything like that. But we do actually have a lot of Convoy supporters here, probably the densest population of Convoy supporters outside of Alberta. So I'd love to have a conversation where we can talk about how we can message or how we can be effective on September 20th with our own communities, bringing our own communities forward. And one idea that I have, which being primarily a chapter of the Council of Canadians, I've shared with chapter mates and our single remaining staff person. And that's that we ask people, I have to take a step sideways for a minute. I really think that we're on the wrong track with Carney by thinking of him as being a sellout and the enemy, because nobody's from our side is really trying to talk to him. And the only people talking to him would be the lobbyists, bending his ear. And, he's got Trump on the, jumping up and down on top of his head. And he's been the reason I thought it wouldn't be too bad having him for prime minister, obviously better than Pierre Poilievre, is because he's been a climate warrior since 2014. He's been a bankster, but he's also been a climate warrior since then. He said, we can't burn the fossil fuels. They have to stay in the ground. I'm not saying his thinking is the same as my thinking or your thinking or other people's thinkings. The path he used to get there is the same, but he knows better. And he has 4 kids. So I just think that it would be interesting if we could put the common touch on this and send, collect personal messages, letters, perhaps with photographs or something like that from our, community supporters of climate action and somehow deliver them to him. Perhaps crossing the line to do it might be the way to do it. Because obviously it's not going to be an easy thing to deliver something to him on September 20th, but deliver that to him and invite him to get in touch with us and invite him to have a conversation with us about this. I just think he's not hearing from us it's country manners too. Even if you don't agree with the person, even if you have fundamental differences with the person, he's still your neighbor. You still try and get along with him. You still try and have a conversation with him. You try not to argue, but to reason. So anyway, that's my thought. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say is there's a vague possibility. in the past, I've done community. I don't know how to put this unless there's a whole lot of Paulo Freire fans in the audience, but there's a thing called Theater of the Oppressed. And I've done some work with youth before where they present their point of view on things, and you develop a presentation, whatever way they want to go with it, based on their issues and their complaints. So I actually think I have an opportunity to try and do that with some youth here in August and September. So I'm kind of hopeful that maybe it's going to generate something we could present then. And if anybody's interested in talking about how you do that kind of stuff, it's like my favorite topic in the world. And it's so much fun to see kids come out of their young people. And by that, I mean probably anybody under 30, but certainly under 25, come out of their shells and talk about. And it's easy to do because you start with body work. So
Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks so much, Anne. Lois.
Yeah, I'm with my old colleague Anne on having a conversation about what happens in rural and remote locations.
Yes.
And those are 2 very different things.
Yeah.
And, what goes on in Toronto has little to do with what goes on in Yellowknife. And so a big issue for us in the North is accountability. So, you know, in an urban environment, you can maybe take to the streets and people disappear and they're never seen again. Here, you have a face, people know who you are, and you are accountable for your actions. And that's Joe Citizen, and that's every politician that we drag in, every NGO that's involved. And so there is a whole different dynamic. And I don't think that the rural and remote dynamic is really captured a lot in so many of the discussions. So thank you, Nick, for suggesting that possibility of having that discussion.
Great. Okay, so I think there's definitely reason to do a special brainstorm on the rural remote. I think that will really bring benefits. So we'll make a note of that and get back to you on a timing for that. We're just on time. This is great. So Dave, why don't I open it up to you to talk about just this idea? Oh, yeah, Lois just hasn't put her hand down yet. Great. About Environment Week in 2026, just as a bookmark.
Yeah. So we're here to try to kind of find out whether everyone here would support the idea of doing something in 2026 during Environment Week. And I want to give you some background on it. So the first thing is that we did hear from a number of groups that doing the event this year in during the week of Earth Day was maybe a little bit too early because it was still cold. There were quite a few places where they were getting spring rains. So it was cold and wet, and it's not the type of atmosphere a lot of seniors like to hang out in. So that was one of the things that came up. The other thing that came up is Canadian Environmental Week, which is roughly the first week of June, is also Seniors Day in a number of provinces, or Seniors Week, or Seniors Month in a number of provinces. So that's a second thing. And the third thing is, while I was sitting looking at the 170 member groups of CANRAC, it occurred to me that if we started looking at networks of people, networks of groups instead of just individual groups, we could grow a lot bigger, a lot faster. So just one example is the Canadian Environmental Network has roughly 1,200 member groups on their list, which is 10 times, roughly 10 times the size of CANRAC. So if we were able to engage all those groups, potentially we could be 10 times bigger. But to get all those groups aligned, we need lots of advance notice. So even now we're talking about roughly 11 months advance notice. And what often happens with these actions that come up is that other groups already have stuff planned. So if we're able to start talking about it, say in September, and give people 9 months heads up that this is coming, so they could leave room in their 2026 agenda, we might have a better chance of getting more groups involved and being a much, much bigger action and scaring the H out of all governments.
Okay, I see some hands up for that, Dave.
So I'm wondering if you would just dump into the chat whether you say yes or no to the idea. And I'll take the idea to mean my proposal that we do something during Environmental Week in 2026.
Okay, great. So while you're doing that, let me wrap up with a couple of things. First of all, we had 67 people on the call in July when people are taking holidays and so on. So congratulations on that. And at 58, just as we're coming to the end. So people have joined and stayed. Second, our next call will be August 12th at the same time, 6:30 Eastern. All the standard information will go out about that call. with the follow-up information as we always do, which includes the video recording and summary notes and linkages and so on. And then finally, for those of you who feel you have some questions or anything that's just kind of hanging that you'd like to chat about for a little bit more time, we'll stay on the line for an additional 15 minutes to allow for that to occur. And if not, if you don't need to stay on the call, then I wanted to say have a great evening, and it was lovely to see you all. And as always, a great gathering.